Hello and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. This is part 3 of my Seascape series, and in this video we're going to go ahead and finish the clouds, add in the distant mountains, and start working on the sea. If you're following along traditionally, see part 1 in this video series, and I will have a list of all the brushes and the paints and the canvases that I use. We're going to be using the Infinite Painter app for Android, and what we're going to be doing is finishing out the final shapes of the clouds. And so what you want to do is take some of your highlight color and take cadmium yellow light and throw in a little bit of cadmium orange and start working on the edges of the clouds. You can go ahead and take some purple, dioxazine purple with a lot of white in it, and start refining some of the cloud shapes and the forms. And what we want to do now is we kind of want some sharp edges on the clouds. The edges that need to be sharp are the ones that are going to be silhouetted against the sky part where there aren't any clouds. So we're working on that part right here. And we're using I'm using the Angelo brush. And if you're following along traditionally, use your smaller brush. Get your script brush or use a small round brush and just go ahead and concentrate on making the edges of the cloud shapes here. And we want to go ahead and use a highlight color, usually a little bit of cadmium yellow light, and throw in some orange. And we also want to start adding a little bit of variation to the color in our clouds here. So we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of a different orange color than we've been using. Just take some cad orange light and throw in some peach colors and coral colors for the cloud. You can also throw in some yellows. We want some yellows here. And we're just working on adding a spread of color throughout the cloud and just kind of ramping up the colors to make it pop. And you go ahead and do the same thing with the dark color in the clouds. Just take some dioxazine purple. Go ahead and work on the shadow shapes in your cloud. Make some sharp edges where it's up against the sky, and just go ahead and keep picking and finding places that you need to refine. And you can go ahead and also add some of the different colors of purple here. You can add a lighter color or darker. And here I'm working on the clouds up in the left-hand corner, and we kind of want to work on the shape of it, and up in the other corners. And you want your corners darkened on your picture. This helps with your composition, and it makes the viewer's eye stay in the picture instead of going off the edge and losing interest. So we want to go ahead and blend it in just a tiny bit here, but we're mostly through with the blending. We kind of want to keep more sharper edges now because we're giving the final details of the cloud here. So we want to go ahead and add a little bit of a plum colored purple, and you can do this with dioxazine purple. You can throw in alizarin crimson with it to give it a brighter purple look. And you want to do this to make variations in your clouds to make them more interesting, and you don't want a monotone color for your clouds. You want to add little pockets of color around in them. And so that's what I'm doing with this purple. And just go ahead and kind of pick some shadow places that need a little bit of some variation in them. And then we want to go ahead and work more on the corners here, and we want to make the edges of the clouds look wispy and thin and trailing, because this will give it sort of a 3D look for your clouds in the sky here. So we want to go ahead and make these little thin wispy clouds on the edges like the wind is sort of blowing them. And just go ahead and pick and find those kind of clouds and use your photo reference to put those in and see where they go. And just go ahead and add some more patches of lighter color. And we want this kind of salmon orange color, and we're going to go ahead and add more patches of it in there just to give the cloud more interest. And also to work on the edges, we're further refining them with this color and putting a little bit of it in the dark so that it gives some form to the clouds on the edges of your picture. And go ahead and make the wisps over the dark part, and this gives it the three-dimensional look, and looks like the clouds are floating by each other. And just go ahead and pick and look around in your cloud the places that need a little bit of color, and refer to your reference photo for this. And go ahead and go back and work a little bit more on the edges with some highlight color. Again, we don't want pure white because that would look too chalky, so we want to just go ahead and have a really light orange color, and just go ahead and add it right on the edges because we're making the so-called silver lining of the clouds. That's kind of what you're doing right here. That's what they call the silver lining of the clouds. So just go ahead and take that color and put it along the edges of your clouds and along on the wisps, and that gives it a little bit of highlight there. And just go ahead and keep doing that until you decide that, well, it looks pretty good. I'm getting close to getting the form that I want. You can leave it right now, if you want to, you can leave it like this right now. Or you can just do a few more refinements on it. Make it a little bit finer, add a little bit more details. It all depends on how you want your clouds. Some people like really detailed clouds, and some people like them kind of rough looking and painterly. So this is pretty good for the clouds. So I've decided that I'm finished with clouds for me. So I want to go ahead and work on the distant cliffs and the mountains. And you kind of want to keep these really vague and sort of soft looking on the edges because they're way out in the distance. So you can pick a purple color or a bluish color. Use ultramarine blue, dioxazine purple. Take your number 6 filbert brush and go ahead and just fill in the shape of the mountains. But like I said, you want to keep them sort of vague. You don't want them real sharp because it's way off in the distance and there's water in the air, and so there's pollution, and the mountains won't look real sharp because they're up against the clouds. So they're just kind of vague looking. So go ahead and just make the shape. Don't make it straight. You want the cliffs to look a little bit bumpy on the top, like they're mountain peaks that are showing up a little bit. You don't want it to look real straight or anything. And just go ahead and work on the edge of the cliff, and it's just whatever you want it to look like. You can make it look steeper, or you can sort of pull out the end of it and make it look kind of like it's got stair steps on it. And then we want to go ahead and start on the water. And so what you need to do for your horizon line of the ocean is keep it straight. Make sure that it's straight across on your paper, because like Bob Ross said, it'll look like the water will run off of your paper and you'll have to hang a bucket on the end of your picture to catch all the water. And he was being funny, but he's right. You need to make it look straight on the horizon line. So take some ultramarine blue and just go ahead and sort of make a dry brush stroke straight across there. Dry brush is when you just have a little bit of amount of paint on your brush. And then go ahead and add in some really light orange highlights on the water there to show that it's reflecting the sky and catching some of the cloud look. And then as you come forward, you want to change the colors of the ocean. The ocean doesn't have just one color on the water. It reflects different colors, and so you want to add some green in here. Throw in Hooker's green, which is or pine green it's called, and just throw in that color with a lot of white and add that in there. It gives it kind of a washed out faded green. And as you come closer, you want to make your strokes like a banana shape, and this gives it sort of a wave look. And so you just want to go ahead and keep doing that. As you come forward, throwing in darker blues, you can throw in some phthalo blue here, some ultramarine blue with less white, throw in some more green. Keep making these banana shaped strokes, and you want to throw in a little bit of darker green as you come forward. Your colors are going to get darker as you come into the foreground. And again, you want the edges of your picture to look darker so that you can keep the viewer's eye focused on your painting. So throw in some dioxazine purple, mix it with some of the Hooker's green or pine green, and throw in some white. Keep making these banana shaped strokes and kind of draw in the waves that you're going to have. We're going to have a couple of big waves in here, so we want to go ahead and sort of draw in the shape of the waves, and just keep doing that crisscross banana stroke here, and add in darker greens as you come into the foreground, and just add it in several different places. We just kind of want to make pockets of dark and light, sort of like the clouds, but you want to add some light to it just to show that the sunlight is bouncing off the waves and that you're getting a little bit of the reflection from the sky. And again, as you go towards the horizon, you want it to stay lighter, and you want it to be darker as you come into the foreground, but you need to add a little bit of some highlights to the waves in the foreground as well. And here we're just kind of working on the structure of the waves and giving them more shape as you come towards the foreground. So this is the end of part 3 of my Seascape lesson, and in the next part I'm going to go ahead and further refine the waves, and we're going to add foam, and I'll show you how to add splatters to your painting and all kinds of different effects that you can do for the ocean. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.